Cool. So I guess I'll just kick off the discussion by asking if the GitLab container registry supports the refers API. And you can see a cosine PR there as well. That's sort of the context behind this question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does not support it. So the OCI 1.1 version is fairly new. So at the moment, I'm not aware of any registry that has already implemented it, but there is already support or experimental support in a couple of tools, such as Cosig. So we should definitely, and going to your next question, we should definitely follow that because the client tools will follow that. And if you want to be compatible with those tools, then we need to follow the spec.
Okay.
Yeah, I think 1.1 just came out like last month, or yeah, last month was February, so I think it just came out last month.
Yeah, it's fairly new. It's been cooking for at least probably almost 2 years or more.
Wow.
So I recall having some conversations with some folks from ShaneGuard Dev more than 1 year ago. And yeah, it's been brewing for a long time, but now it's been merged. So yeah, we should look at it. Brian, I think you have the next question.
Yeah, sure. So my concern is, let me share my screen and I can show you. But my concern is, I think, so like this is a signature right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's associated with the latest image. And so my concern is that I think our goal is we want to hide these and be able to show them like as data that's associated with the image instead. And so if we want to be able to filter these out, then we have to have some way of having like a filter parameter when we go to list the tags or list the manifest that says, I don't want to get these in response. That's what I'm thinking.
So actually, there are right now there are three different Cosig implementations. So the first one, and I've not been following that closely, but I looked briefly at it last week, and basically the original version, like when it started more than probably 2 years ago, they used tag names with specific naming conventions. So those will end in .sig or .sbom. So that's the original implementation. That's fully compatible with the OCI distribution 1.0, which everyone supports, but it does not offer any discoverability features, and it's a bit clunky because you're basically assuming everyone will follow that naming convention and those tags won't be swept away for some reason. So it's not easy. And then with the OCI 1.1 version, we have the refers API, but there is also fallback for the refers API, which relies on a specific tag name as well, but without the .sig or .sbom suffix. So looking at all of those, I looked at the Cosig PR, and basically they start, and the flow that they describe, if you open that PR that is listed on the agenda, so I have my cursor over it. So the flow that is the setup SBOM flow, basically everything that is described is using the fallback API in OCI 1.1. So they are using a specific tag name, which is SHA256 dash and then the digest, but there is no .sig or .sbom here. And that's what they use to describe how it works. But then if you pull down, and in this case, yeah, there is no way to like filter the references by type as well. This is just a slightly better version of the original implementation with .sig and .sbom tags. But if you scroll down, then there will be a message. Let me find it. Yeah, so let me copy the link. Let me just paste it here. So here you can see that they are referencing to a change in a tool, which is Go Container Registry from Google. So this is the client library that is used by CoSign and many other client tools to speak with registries. And in Go Container Registry, that PR added support for the referrers API. And the referrers API is like the full version of the new feature. And it doesn't rely on any tags, on any custom tags. Instead, there is the new endpoints to get the referrers for each image. So you can get you can get a list of images that reference another image. And that's what they did. So they rely on this version of Go Container Registry. And after, if you look at the comment below, so they say after pulling the latest version of the Go Container Registry client and running a local instance of SOT, the SBOM and signature flows above work using the referrers API. No digest tag, which is the fallback approach that they use on the PR description, and no .sbom or .sig tags, nothing. So they are just using the referrers API to get back the information about the signatures that reference an image. So from what I understand, from now on, if the CoSign OCI experimental flag is turned on, CoSign will first check if the registry supports the referrers API first. And if it does, it will use that flow to communicate with the registry, both to push using the right formats and to query the registry for the signatures of an image. If the registry says that it does not support the referrers API, then it will fall back to the tag. So it's actually called tag fallback on the OCI distribution spec. If you read it, let me find the link. Yeah, here. So there it explains how our registries should reply to the V2 request to tell the client if it supports the referrers API or not. So if CoSign detects that the registry does not support the referrers API, it will fall back to the tag approach, and they will work just like it's described on the PR. And if for some reason that doesn't work, or in other words, if you're searching for an image for a signature and nothing is found using the tag approach, then CoSign will fall back to the original .sig, .sbom tag lookup. So it's like a cascading approach. They start with the referrers, then the tag fallback, and then the .sig, .sbom tag naming convention. So if we support the referrers API, then we don't have to worry about the other two under.
Yeah, on the other makes sense. And I can see the workflow for getting the references for a specific image. The problem that I see is if you want to show that stuff in a list, like the list of tags, it's going to be too expensive to make a separate request for each tag to get the references.
Yeah, that's a problem. You basically have to check for each state. You have to check if there are any references or not. But we can try to work around it. So most of the images have a media type which is from Docker. So most images on the registry are built with Docker. So those have a media type docker.something. And CoSign relies on another media type, which is the OCI media type. So that already reduces the surface of the problem. Like you only have to do that check for images that are of type OCI. But that's still a problem because right now you would have to do that scan. We do have an advantage because we suffered from several performance complications of the OCI distribution spec, and we had to create some APIs of our own. And one of those was a new tag list endpoint, which not only returns the name of the tags that exist in a repository, but for each tag, it will also return metadata, like the created timestamp, the size of the image. So we can add more details into that API response, which the GitLab UI, the GitLab API is already using it. And try to embed a flag on that list to tell if a given tag has any associated image of type CoSign. So that's an option. It might become a slightly different problem on the registry side to do that association against the database, but I think in the end we will have to figure out which one is worse, I think. Something else is that we do enforce pagination. So if we have to go down the worst case scenario, which is making one extra request per tag, then at least we can enforce pagination and know that it won't be more than 10 additional requests per page or something like that. So basically trying to cut the problem. It doesn't need to be perfect. We just need to make sure that it won't cause us problems like missing SLAs and having major performance issues.
Yeah, so
And
I
then
think of another thing that I wanted to talk about, which is the metadata database. Right now, we only have it on GitLab.com, right? When do you think that's going to be available for self-managed?
Probably not before next year.
Okay.
Most likely. So it's a pretty big chunk of work to do. Yeah, and most of the stuff that we're doing right now, like that new tag list API, all of that is already only supported on .com because it all relies on the metadata database. So really, there is not much we can do. This will just be another incentive to also drive the efforts with a higher priority within GitLab, because we do need to do a lot of stuff, especially in distribution.
Yeah. So how are you supporting both at the same time right now? Is there like a feature flag in the registry?
No, it's all on the Rails side. So in Rails, there is a GitLab.com question mark function, which I'm sure you all know it. And basically, if that returns true, then we will use the new APIs because we know that the registry is already the new one. Otherwise, we are on self-managed, and therefore we use the old version.
Yeah, Ali, you can go ahead if you want.
Sure. Yeah, I was just thinking we also have to validate the signatures after retrieving them. So what's the best way we can do that? Do we have to run cosign when we're validating a signature?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. The only way that I know is using cosign. So cosign verify, I think it's the common. So I'm not sure if there is a different approach, but the tool is public, so the source code is open, so you can just look at it and see what does that verify command do, and see if it's possible to mimic on the Rails side.
So you're thinking we would probably implement that validation check on the Rails side?
Yeah, it would be
Okay.
cool. I'm not sure we can call binaries from the Rails side or even Go code, so probably there is no other option. And if that's not possible, the only way would be a custom API on the registry side. And then the registry would do the validation, likely using cosign as a library.
Yeah, the thing is, if we try to show the signatures on the index, then we would have to fetch each signature separately for each image and do validation. And I have a feeling that would be pretty expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm not sure what's the priority on that, but every image in the index will also show up as an individual entry on the GitLab UI and the API. So maybe we can just do that lookup for non-index images, and on index images, you can just point to each one of the referenced images, so people can check them individually. Because yeah, it can get pretty expensive, especially because there is no limit to the number of references in an index. I think we actually added one on the registry code base because we were afraid of complications of not having a limit, but it's pretty high. So yeah, we should definitely don't do that, at least on a first version.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you can put stuff like this in the Rails database, but I think in the Rails database, we just have the only registry records that we store are the repositories, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all the communication. So Rails doesn't know anything about the communication between the clients and the registry. So it doesn't know when something is uploaded, when something is created. Nothing flows through the registry. Everything is directly between the client. Through the Rails, everything is directly between the client and the registry. So there is only one first request, which is for authentication against GitLab Rails, and from there onwards, Rails is completely in the dark.
Yeah, there's a lot to think about.
Yeah, I think that there is at least 3 parts of this problem. So the first one is getting the registry to accept the rights from Cosign using the new API. Like make sure Cosign can write to the registry. So that will be part 1. Part 2, make sure Cosign can read from the registry using the refers API. So that's part 2, and then part 3 would be the discoverability and presentation on the Rails side. So at least if we break it down on those 3 phases, yeah, we can go one by one.
So are you thinking that how much work would it be, I guess, to implement the refers API in the registry?
It will take a bit of time, so definitely some research work. So I just glanced over the spec update and the co-sign implementation. So we definitely have to look at it in more detail, experiment. So something that is good to do is just spin up a registry, use co-sign to push some signatures to the registry using the old behavior, the .sig.sbom, then look at the data that is persisted into the database, then try to do the same with a refers API and see what's missing, see what is breaking, and go from there onwards and patch those holes one by one. We need to do some considerations on the database design. And one of the main problems there is that this is a completely separate database. So it's a separate cluster. It's a separate logical database. Only the registry has access to it. And on the Go side, we don't have all the tooling and utilities like we have on the Rails side. So you don't have, for example, you don't have background migrations. You don't have all those utility functions to write nice schema migrations with all those protections and everything like that. So we only have plain SQL migrations. We have been adding more features along the way. So right now we already support post-deployment migrations, but those are also plain SQL as well. So that kind of work requires more than what people are used to on the Rails side. So it requires more time, more code, and more effort to perform non-trivial database changes. So that's why we need to be extra careful, because right now we don't have a way to go and backfill some data or do a data repair moving from one table to another because we missed something. So we need to be very careful about the database design. That's my main concern. That's what I'll be looking for more closely, even more than the API design, because if we get the database schema right, then the API will be mostly about usability. So we definitely need to get the schema changes right from the beginning.
I see.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess I don't have anything else that I want to cover. Ali, do you have anything?
No, it's a lot to think about. I think I just need some time to digest.
Yeah, well, if you're interested in getting a look at the code, if you haven't already, I think Jaime shared with you our onboarding issue. So there is a lot of information on that onboarding issue template. So the history, several videos that do demos of the registry working and the data changing in the background. So that's definitely worth to check. And then when you're ready, you can spin up a registry instance on your machine. Just use Docker to pull images, look at the database schema, see what data was written after each Docker pull or Docker push command. So you can get a feel of how the data is laid out, and then just start playing with co-signing. Yeah, I'm definitely available to help. I already mentioned that. So yeah, you can also count on me to help you get through.
Cool. Thanks, Joel.
Yeah, thanks for your help. I guess that's all we have today. So thanks everybody for coming,
Cool.
and I'll see you all later.
See you.